you have just these little twists, little kinks along the line, that's where some of the tornadoes can form. That's what we first saw with this. So I'm going to backtrack on our sweeping radar. This is what we saw over the last hour. So right when the tornado warning was issued past Chester, let's see if we can see where the little kink was. I would say it was probably right about in here that we first indicated it before it started to move its way off towards the northeast. And you can see the National Weather Service has now shrunk this tornado warning for this area. So right here now, Richburg is going to be the back end. Knox, you're soon going to be clear from this. So if you're watching from Evans, Chester, it's going to be areas along 321. You're now clear for this storm, but we still do have a chance that some of these cells. So here's the thing. Since we have this one line, which wasn't nearly as unstable as what we're going to see these storms off towards the west drive into, we will have the potential that this could definitely be, I think, upgraded, that we might have a tornado watch that's going to be indicated here very shortly. And then more tornado warnings could start to develop as well. So Chester County, this goes until 12:30. Let's time it out. As I mentioned earlier, this isn't really a populated zone. So the amount of people in this area is still 5,251. Once you get closer to around Lansford and over to Van Wyck, now we're talking about a higher population once we're crossing US 21. I am seeing that this rotation is still very weak. Sometimes when it's a little bit broader and spread out, because if you bring up our measuring tool, that's across 3 miles. So I think you definitely have rotation along the system, but this doesn't really look to be a tightly compact one. You are seeing a little flare on the outflow of this system of a slightly stronger wind just south of Knox, getting up to about 57 miles per hour. And you got to take these estimations with a grain of salt, but these do really line up with the environment that we're in, because we're at least going to be seeing some of those gusts getting up to about 40 miles per hour. So until we get more information, let's roll like this is one of our main weather segments that I'll be doing around this point to show you exactly what's happening. This is what I would have been preparing. Again, tornado warning from the northeastern side of Chester County. If you're watching around Knox, things are about to be clear. If you're around Richburg, you should be in your safe place right now listening to us. And the good thing is you can bring your cell phone and follow us live what's going on. It's the back edge. So I think it's going to drive into a more unstable atmosphere that we could have a few more of these tornado warnings as well. So it's right here in Richburg, following that rotation. It's spreading out more. This looks to be less impressive than it once was. I'm happy to say that at least the rotation isn't as tightly compact, but still we have to be in the watch because we can have some down trees associated with this, because I think wind gusts could get at least to around 60 miles per hour. Even though it does have the tornado warning tag, it still is a severe thunderstorm that could be producing all the above. This storm system is also moving in a hurry off towards the northeast at about 40 miles per hour. So any damage that happens is going to happen just like that on the leading edge. This is what it looks like for the afternoon. Beyond having the actual thunderstorm potential and the tornado potential, wind gusts getting up to 45 miles per hour, that could uproot a lot of those shallow rooted trees, because we have these driving force winds at about 5,000 feet. If you're outside right now, and not suggest if you're on the eastern side of Chester County, you have those winds that are so strong, up to about 60 to 70 to 80 miles per hour a mile up. That's mixing down to the surface, so that would be an elevated threat as far as maybe some downbursts go with this, and then it's enough also rotation as well. So here's what our Futurecast is indicating. We're getting hour by hour updates with this. Earlier today it was showing, hey, this doesn't really look to be a bigger deal, and then now we're really starting to see a better idea that these isolated cells could do exactly what's happening in Chester County right now. Still seeing a chance for isolated scattered showers and thunderstorms early to the middle of the afternoon. Once you get to about 4, 5, 6 o'clock, that threat is now east of the Charlotte area. So Charlotte, your window for any tornado warnings, severe thunderstorms, I think is really over the next 3 to 4 hours. After 4 o'clock, this should be clear. And then it's more of a central and eastern North Carolina deal once this thing passes. So that's the reason why you can see the justification for being under that medium threat for our severe weather outlook. So back to the tornado warning that we have currently in Chester County. Here it is. So tornado warning with the most recent update still has been shrunk a tad, but this rotation still does not look very impressive. So here it is, very spread out at this point. Bringing up our measuring tool, before it was about 3 miles, now it's closer to 4. Doesn't really look like it's going to be that impressive. So typically this happens. This is clear-cut spin-up tornado type of environment, but this has now set the stage. This means that anywhere along the line we could have another spin-up tornado, so we all need to be extra weather aware. where. And I'm here in studio seeing what's happening on the radar. Let's see what's happening on the roads with Brittany Van Voorhees.
Hey Chris, first I want to say you're doing a great job. You're doing a lot with a little, because you're right, the rotation does not look really impressive, but we are in that environment where we could see this quick spin up. You can see the cloudy skies, the winds are whipping, and that is just very typical for some of these to get quick spin ups, rain wrapped, very, very difficult. So first things first, fabulous job with that. So yes, you're mentioning that we of course have this tornado warning that does include those parts of Chester and York County. This includes Richburg right now. You mentioned a very lower populated area, which is good news. So we haven't seen any of that debris kind of being picked up on correlation coefficient, and it is heading toward the northeast. But otherwise than just the fact that we have that warning in place, just want to give our viewers a quick reminder about where your safe place is. I feel like we talk about this a lot, especially now that we've gone into this spring severe weather season, but you should be in an interior room, away from any windows, under a staircase, in a closet, always a good idea. Now I have my hat on, of course, so I don't have a helmet, but any kind of helmet or anything that can protect your head from any flying debris, always a good idea to have too. And you also want to make sure that you have a phone charger or a way to get weather alerts. So whether that is the WCNC weather app, whether that is a NOAA weather radio, and you can take all of those things. You can take, of course, your weather radio, your charger, your phone into the closet, and you can still be watching us live, of course, on your phone with that WCNC weather app. Now, it is indicative that we are starting to get into that area where the heavier rain is starting to pick up as we look here ahead on 485. We are heading south there toward where those more aggressive storms are, like the one that we are tracking right now in Chester and York County. Now, a good reminder, I think, just with this view, that with the heavy rain and, of course, the gusty wind, it can make it extremely hard to drive. So if you don't have to, you may want to just not do it if you don't have to. You can see there is some ponding on the roadways. You know, when your wheel crosses over and there's all that water and kind of rushes up in front of you, that's what we're dealing with a little bit now. And this is on the interstate that typically does have a little bit better of that ability to kind of wash some of that water away. So you can see the heavy rain definitely making it very difficult to see as we continue our trek further south. So if you can stay inside, I do expect you, of course, to please do so. And if another warning were to be issued, whether it's this one or another one, you want to stay weather aware, know where your safe place is, and of course, WCNC weather team has got you covered, and we'll be here tracking these storms all day long. For now, I'm going to send it back to Chris Mulcahy there in the
Boy, did Brittany just paint a picture about how heavy this rain is, especially along this line. This line is very impressive. This is the first passing before we have a chance for a few more showers and thunderstorms develop upstream. But then here is that tornado warning in the northeastern side of Chester County. You can see those little hooks and kinks that are happening along the line. That's likely why all this happened. And some of these rain rates are really impressive. But as far as the intensity, as far as that tight little difference that we're seeing, maybe for a green wrapped in some of the red and the yellows, we're not seeing it. So the rotation is starting to die with this system, but we're still going to stay with you, of course, for the rest of our show and until this expires at about 12:30. But we actually have Larry Sprinkle here in studio. What are some communities that are going to be affected, my friend, from this situation?
Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks, Chris. This definitely will go with some of the areas to be affected, and the time frame of this puts it in the Lando community. That would be about 1223. These are all small communities in that area. Around 1227 at Lansford. Overturns Van Wyck, a little bit more populated area there. Van Wyck about 1240. The storm system should be close to Waxhaw, close to about 1252, moving into the Marvin area at about 1254. And eventually, if this holds together, the storm system holds together about 111 at Monroe. Once again, it has lessened in intensity, but certainly those communities be affected. And not only in these serious situations, tornado warnings, but you could have a severe thunderstorm with winds well over 50 to 60 miles an hour. So if you are in the Lando area, a couple minutes away from there, take shelter now. Obviously a low-lying area. If you're in your home, the lowest layer, the basement would be a place to go. You go into a closet. If you live in a mobile home and you don't have time to get out, you can get out of there into a low-lying area. We suggest people who are inside a mobile home at the moment, you just take cover the best you can. If you're going to be traveling in that area, better to limit your time. Chris, I noticed that they've lessened the area, the entire area of that tornado warning, and did want to say that about 12:34 at Springdale, Van Wyck at about 12:40 when that storm system starts moving into that area. Eventually moves into Union County around Marvin over towards Monroe, eventually towards the Hemby Bridge area there, Chris.
Yeah, and it's going to be over the next 10 minutes, Larry. I have 9 minutes officially as we're going on 8 minutes. Then we're going to see if this is going to be extended. At this point, doesn't look like it because not really seeing that strong rotation. I'm going to bring up our velocity tool again. This just looks like a hot mess right now. You're not seeing any indication of, hey, here's where the rotation is. We've been tracking this, and the cool thing is we can actually go back to see where this originated from. You're going to have a better idea of why I'm not thinking that we're going to see a reissuing of this. Because at one point, you notice how there was a little bit of a difference. You had that little tight area. It was right at this point. So this was just after 12 o'clock or so. I'll circle it for you. This was the cause of concern. It was right in here. Whenever you have something like that, that is a rotating cell. So likely that was our spin-up tornado, but then look what happens. As you continued off, you saw a little bit of an outflow of a wind, and then it really started to disperse. So we are looking at a much better environment here, but that doesn't mean that we're going to be completely done. So it's still the northeastern side of Chester County, right around Lansford. That's where we're really focusing all of our energy as far as this storm goes. But it's the leading edge of this system that's now pushing into the northern part of Lancaster County. This is the main bulk of rain that is anticipated to have just widespread rain. But now that it does have the rotational environment that we are looking for, that is showing that maybe those cells the back towards the west will have a better shot at this. And still no confirmation from the National Weather Service exactly what they're going to do, but they were mentioning there is a chance that they could have what is a tornado watch for this afternoon. And I wouldn't be surprised at this point they probably will, since there's a much better chance for stronger storms behind this, because our tornado parameter, anytime these numbers move, you have a chance for a twist to the atmosphere, and that's exactly what we're seeing. Notice 2 o'clock. When these numbers get to 1 o'clock, first off, you need everything to line up. You need a line of thunderstorms, check, to move through when you have a twist to the atmosphere. We're not super unstable right now, so these are not long track tornadoes at this point. We would need a supercell of an individual cell to form, but it's any time, I would say, going forward now to about 5 o'clock. If you're watching from the Charlotte area, anywhere along Interstate 77 as that current storm system is passing, we even have storms off towards the west that we need to be weather aware. Once you get to about 3, 4, 6 o'clock, you can see these numbers are pretty much at a goose egg. Then that's really no longer a concern. But that tornado warning will still go on until 12:30. So we're looking at about another 5 minutes. We're really just buying time here because I'm not really seeing a lot that is showing this. So let's take a quick look at the roads as I'm trying to look for a little bit more information with, of course, meteorologist Brittany Van Voorhees.
Thanks, Chris. So I would say that this is just a perfect example of why you do not drive on the interstate, right? When we have the chance for some strong storms, you can see very heavy rain right now. I mean, it is making it incredibly hard to drive. And speaking of that, we did just pass by a car in a ditch. That was on the right side of the roadway. Mile marker 67. That was on 485. So that is really right before you try to get on 77 heading toward either Columbia or Charlotte. So if you're in that general area, you really just want to use a little bit of caution because of course, there is a tow truck there trying to take that car away, but there is the potential that we could see more of that just because of how slick the roadways are and how the heavy rain does continue. Now, another thing I just want everyone to watch out for is you see how that semi truck is right in front of me. I talked about this a little bit over the weekend when we had those really high winds up toward the mountains, but once you start to get wind gusts in the 40s and 50s, which is very possible during the potential for some strong to severe storms, it can make it really hard for those folks to drive too. So you really don't want to be close to those 18-wheelers, those semis, because their cars are a little bit harder to handle than a regular truck, SUV, or even sedan. So maybe keep your extra distance there. Make sure one's not too close to you on either side, because it just can make it so difficult for those folks to drive when the wind gets extremely high. Now, the rain here, as we continue to drive further south, has started to break up a little bit. You'll notice it's a little bit more light to moderate here as we do continue south there on 77. Right now, we're actually heading toward the area of Waxhaw over toward Van Wyck, areas like that, because these storms are moving so rapidly to the east that they're going to be moving closer to those areas right now. So that's where we're headed now. We're going to keep a close eye on things. The roadways, of course, any more reports there of wind damage, as we did have some trees down earlier in Mecklenburg County near Providence Road. And of course, we'll keep a close eye on this warning too. But for now, Chris, I'm going to send it back to you in the studio.
Hey, thanks a lot, Brittany. Great job out on the roads. And another good sign is the National Weather Service also trimmed this from York County. So at one point, this was extending all the way just southeast of Chester County to the southeastern part of York County. Now that is just isolated to the northeastern side of Chester County. So we have another 4 minutes of this tornado warning. but it's along this line that you still have a chance for a quick spin-up tornado. Not the classic setup, but you definitely see those little squiggles. This is technically called a quasi-stationary line, so a QLCS, or quasi-linear stationary system that moves through the area pretty quickly. And right now we're seeing a speed of about 45 miles per hour. So I want everyone mainly east of I-77 for the immediate future, over the next 1 to 2 hours, to keep especially close eye on this first line, because when that moves through, just like what happened in Chester County, you could have that spin-up tornado that goes along with that. Also some gusty winds on its own. We're still seeing those gusts up to about 45 miles per hour just because of the natural environment that is happening with this storm system. But I need to direct my attention to what we're calling round two. These cells that are further off towards the west could drive back into this environment, and it's a much better chance that whenever you have storms that have a chance to breathe, maybe the sun will shine just a little bit, that's where you're going to have a better chance for an isolated supercell. Right now, not seeing a lot with this, but still some isolated gusts to about 45 to 50 miles per hour will be a possibility. And right now, rotation has cycled a bit with the possibility of tornadic storm crossing I-77, but it doesn't presently appear strong as an issuance at this point. That's directly from the National Weather Service. I will, of course, simplify that verbiage, meaning that the environment is not conducive for a tornado at this point. So it looks like this is going to indeed set here coming up very shortly. So this could be the first, hopefully the only, tornado warning that we're going to have so far this morning. But let's go to the 7-day forecast while we're waiting for this to cycle through. We haven't even had a chance to do that. Your 7-day forecast showing that once this thing clears, we are going to allow for temperatures to return to the 60s on Friday. Friday, a much better day compared to what we're going to see. But I want to do your Futurecast one more before our show ends, before this tornado warning is going to end. It's really over the next few hours that we'll still have a chance for more cells to start to fill in the gaps. We have the right environment, as we already did have one rotating storm. Once you get to about 4 or 5 o'clock, most of the activity will be clear of the Charlotte area. It's areas off towards the east that will still have that potential. So keep that in mind. Still monitoring the one last blast of this tornado warning. Not really seeing the right conditions for the time being, but still, as long as that line is pushing its way off towards the northeast at 45 miles per hour, we are going to be monitoring this very closely. Of course, Brad Panovich will be coming in. We have Brittany Van Voorhees that are out on the roads, and 12:29 is the current time, so we have less than a minute left of this tornado warning. It could be an active afternoon, but I think the most the rain that we are going to see so far this morning is going to be right here. That is where you're going to be expecting, really, from I-77 off towards the east. And it's the few storms that we have just northwest of this line that is going to be the chance for a second coming as far as all this goes. But still, regardless, some very, very heavy rain will be possible. We're seeing a sign of also a severe thunderstorm warning east of the area. So really, from Charlotte off towards the east, I think that's where the main conditions are lying for the time being heading into the afternoon. So it's a day to stay weather aware. Find your safe place if you do have a tornado warning that's issued a little bit later on. But as you can officially see, that tornado warning is done. Sorry we didn't get to the news, but at least everyone's safe in Chester County.
Chris, thank you, and thank you to our entire weather team for keeping everybody informed. And for our viewers, don't forget, your photos, videos really help us tell a story when these things happen, if you can capture those things safely.
Right. Please send them in. Of course, we'll have the latest throughout the day. You can download the WCNC Charlotte mobile news app. You can do this on Near Me as well within that app, and we'll have the very latest coming up with your news at 4 p.m. Have a good day, everybody, and stay safe out there.
Download the WCNC Charlotte news app. Powered by the #1 TV news website in Charlotte, WCNC.com.
Since it all happened on Sunday, and this was during his Ego Death Tour, something that was already in place before the Oscars. And Benazera, he said he's still trying to process everything. He'll eventually talk about it. It'll be funny, some serious, but he's not ready right now. But he received 2 standing ovations at this show.
Yeah, I had heard some interviews with people.